got pro swag on now. Let's do it. So if you're here locally with us or nationally, and if you're looking to gain some money, you college kids out there looking for an opportunity to get involved in the sports marketing industry, we'd love to put a sales team together. We will put a head of sales team together. We'll also put a sales team together. And if you're interested in that opportunity, we've got a quality product for you with quality content, great insight, talking with some of the sports industry's best right here on the Coach Scott Field Show. And if you want to go out and sell sponsorship for our show, boy, please contact us and we'll definitely put you on a path to be a part of something fun and exciting here with the Coach Scott Field Show. In regards to growth, let's talk about the new countries that have come on and went to our site. I want to thank our viewers in Costa Rica, New Zealand, Malaysia. Turkey has jumped in and watched our show, so I want to thank you guys out there in Turkey. Panama, Argentina, Australia, South Korea joined our show, so maybe it's Dennis Rodman going out there, being a part of the NBA ambassadorship, and we picked up some viewership in South Korea, so thank you in South Korea. And we also had Kuwait, so we picked up 10 countries. With that growth, we also picked up over 3,000 followers on Twitter, right there on my Twitter handle, Scott_Fields. Now you can also follow us at the Coach SF Show. So both of those are at Twitter, Coach SF Show and Scott_Fields. They are both ways that you can connect and follow us for content. I also put daily quotes on there. Hopefully they're inspiring for you and a little bit motivational. Had over 10,700 followers now total at Scott_Fields on Twitter. We did gain, like I said, over 3,000 followers since our last show. Want to thank you. And the exciting news is we now have over 10,000 views globally at CoachScottFields.com who are checking in, watching the Coach Scott Fields Show. So thank you so much for all of you who have taken the time from your busy schedules, no matter what you're doing throughout your day, to have us over 10,000 viewers is exciting. We're growing, and we feel like the content that we're providing is something exciting. It's things that Bob and I both believe in. So, you know our mantra. We're talking about empowering, we're talking about educating, and we're talking about growing. And I want to thank each and every one of you around the globe, locally and nationally, who are tuning in to the Coach Scott Fields Show. Also, another little thing I want to throw out there to our viewers. If you're out there and you have a favorite college team or pro team, hey, you could send in that stuff and make that a part of the set right here at the Coach Scott Fields Show. We'll hang it right here so you can see what you sent us. Maybe you've got a favorite college team, whatever region in the country. Send that in here to us, and we'll be glad to hang that up for you so you can see a little bit of, your fanatics. So send it to us. We got a couple jerseys hanging here now. That's some old vintage jerseys. But again, maybe it's a high school jersey, maybe it's just a T-shirt. Hey, send it in to us. We'll put it here as a backdrop, and we'll have some fun with it. So again, poll question for tonight: who will be in the NBA Finals? And again, Hiram, thank you for sending in your response, saying it's going to be Indiana and San Antonio. As we're recording this show live right now, the Utah Jazz are squaring off against the LA Lakers, and right now I've got a score for you for who maybe not watching that show and you can maybe tuning in to us. It's 30-23. Your Utah Jazz are in the cellar dweller contest. I think they're both in for the lottery for maybe a Jabari Parker, maybe an Andre Wiggins. I don't know, but right now it is the second quarter and it just started, so it's 30-23. Another exciting game for you NBA fans tonight. The 8th playoff seed is at hand. So we've got the Memphis Grizzlies that's going to be playing against the Phoenix Suns, and the Phoenix Suns need 2 wins to get into that 8th spot. And what a great job Utah Jazz's own Jeff Hornacek is doing as a head coach out there with the Phoenix Suns. So I want to wish Coach Hornacek the best of luck. You're doing a great job out there, and I believe should be a strong candidate for the Coach of the Year this year. Doing an outstanding job. So, Bob, my man, we've got 2 exciting guests tonight. We're going to have Bill Neff, a sports agent who's been in the industry for a lot of years. He's going to have some great stories and insights for us. Talk a little bit about how he sees the market. He may give some nuggets to some players out there who are college players wanting to play professionally, maybe in the FIBA, abroad, or maybe here in the NBA. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience for you viewers. And then Pete Babcock, a 30-year NBA front office executive, is going to be joining us. Pete has a wonderful story. He has wore many hats as he's been in the NBA for over 30 years. He's been with the Atlanta Hawks and had success. He was with the Denver Nuggets and had success. He was with the Toronto Raptors, had success. Currently with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But again, I'm going to let him share with you some of the many hats that he's worn as he's journeyed throughout his NBA career. A lot of neat things going on, Bob. It's Monday night. Had a few little technical difficulties getting some things going, but we got it going, and we're going to bring it to our viewers live. But isn't it exciting to have nearly 10,000 viewers here for the show?
Oh yeah, it's great, and it's nice to go on there every day and see new areas of the not just the nation but the world that have tuned in, and it is exciting to see the growth and see the interest that's being generated there. Yeah, and you're right. We have had a few technical difficulties. I feel like if the viewers could see me, I'd probably see Band-Aids and baling wire.
You look like you're in a sauna back there, Bob.
A little
you got
duct tape.
Sweat. You worked up a lather.
Boy, it's been interesting. Just to try to get this one rolling. So we appreciate everybody's patience and
matter of fact,
and
I just had a message come through, and they're like, "Hello, Scott. Has your show started yet?" Yes, we've got it going, and we are up. But you will see this coming on here maybe in a couple hours. So part of those technical difficulties we've had, we've lost a Wi-Fi connection. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've lost the internet connection, which is that's what we broadcast on. So it's great.
Yeah, well, and basically that's out of our control. We can't do a lot with that, but I appreciate some viewers out there taking the time to check in to see what's going on and how we're doing. But any other news out there? Also want to mention, too, for your insurance and financial planning, contact Nick Fitzgerald with MetLife. I don't have that phone number yet, but we're definitely going to get that to you after our first break. And please give Nick Fitzgerald a call for all your insurance and financial planning needs with MetLife. Nick, we appreciate you, buddy. Hope you're having a great evening and hope the family's well. Are we ready for our first guest, Bob?
Well, we can give it a shot here and
let's
see. Let's roll the dice and see what happens.
Wouldn't that be exciting?
We'll give Bill.
Let's see if we can get a hold of Bill. I know he's looking forward to being on the show. I had a great conversation with him Saturday afternoon, and I'm really excited about him being a part of the show and taking time from his busy schedule, because he's got a lot going on, as this is a busy time of the year with the college coaches market in full swing, and of course there's players moving around in the FIBA market, so he keeps himself quite busy out there. See if we got us another score here. 32-23, Utah Jazz are beating the LA Lakers. Oh, an update, 38-25. The Utah Jazz with 7.5 minutes to go in the second quarter. Good job, Utah Jazz.
Hello.
Keep grinding.
Hello, is this Bill?
It is.
Bill, this is Bob Fitzgerald with Brave Haven Media. We've got Coach Scott Fields on the line. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties tonight, so hopefully you're going to be able to hear the coach. So
okay.
Let us know if you can't hear him, and we'll try to figure something out on the fly. But welcome to the show.
So much.
Welcome to the show.
Bill, can you hear me, buddy?
Thank you.
Try it again, Scott.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Try it again.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Yes, I can hear you.
There you go. Good. Well, hey, welcome to the Coach Scott Fields Show out here in Salt Lake City from Brave Haven Studios. Really appreciate you taking the time tonight, Bill, to be a part of the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well,
maybe I'll learn something, because my coaching has been a little suspect recently.
Well, hey, the whole fun that we're having with this show is, Bill, and you and I spoke briefly on Saturday, and what a great time that was, and I appreciate you chiming in. We're trying to empower coaches, and we're empowering players with the tools and the resources and with the information to help them grow within their field, and with your insight. With you being an agent, and of course, you and I spoke that you've done some AAU coaching out there on the East Coast. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, because the fun thing that we've got going on here, Bill, is not only do we have a great national viewership, we've also got a strong international viewership. So there's going to be a lot of people listening to you, and that's why we're so excited to have you be a part of the show, my man.
Well, Coach, I began my sports career, went to the University of Michigan, got into a little fight with Bo Schembechler way back when I was investigating some stuff that the University of Michigan football team didn't want me to investigate. And then I dived into the world of sports writing. I didn't think I was very good, but I had risen to cover the Big Five, which to your listeners, and anybody who's ever been to the Palestra in Philadelphia, it's the greatest place to watch basketball in the world, I think, or one of the greatest places. And in fact, I loved it so much that my first 6 dates with my wife were of almost 28 years, were Big Five games, including watching the St. Joe's Hawks upset number 4 ranked Villanova at the time, Ed Pinkney's freshman year.
Out there with Rolly Massimino.
Rolly Massimino, who is a friend of mine to this day, Pinkney is, and 30 years, and it was just great fun, and I decided to go back to business school. I wanted to get in the sports world. I wanted to be the next David Stern. Well, I didn't get there. I went into the sports world and chose to be an agent in the early 90s. One of the biggest mistakes I probably ever made. But when it works, when you represent someone such as former Jazz player Troy Hudson, who was my longtime client, or you represent Kevin Ollie, as I've done, it's really, really fun because of the kind of character you're dealing with. When you're lucky enough and blessed enough, as I was, to represent and am to represent guys like that, guys like Jason Hart, guys like Mike Wilkes, guys like George Hill now, the Pacers, really good characters, of character, then it's so much easier. You hear such war stories about athletes being bad guys. I have been very lucky, 80 to 90% of the time, to represent some really, really great guys who've listened, taken the few bits of good advice I could give to them, and they've done very well. And that's when it's not always so lucrative, but when they do listen, when you guys work collaboratively, it can be great.
Wow, that's, what, I want to echo what you're sharing, because, it's about relationships, and the relationships that you've made, the relationships that you build, the loyalty factor that's there. It is neat, and it's very refreshing and rewarding to hear someone like yourself, speak so humbly about, there are quality characters in the sports industry. It is sports entertainment. It is a grind. There's going to be a lot of frustrations, and I think you do a fantastic job. A lot of people speak very highly of you. You're well respected, and that's why I wanted to have you be on the show to share some of the insight and some of the background, with what it takes to go through the process to help individuals achieve their goals and aspirations. We just had the NCAA finals, and, congratulations to the UConn Huskies. Can you share a little bit of insight with our viewers, what it was like, to have Kevin Ollie, who was a journeyman in the NBA as a player? Correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of helped guide him and direct him to get him into the NBA. Is that correct?
It all started about 13 and a half years ago. I would always go to these minor league games in Hartford of the CBA to support one of my clients, Isaac Fontaine from Washington State, who played very briefly in the NBA. And Kevin would always see me there, but I didn't like his game that much because he couldn't score. I said, he's okay. But near the end of the year, I got a call from a Turkish agent asking for a player. He actually called me for Randy Livingston or Kevin Ollie.
Yeah.
And, I called them both, and Randy didn't call me back, which I tease him to this day about since we're friendly. But Kevin called me back and said, I don't want to go to Turkey, but could you help me get into the NBA? And at the time, Rod Thorne was running the Nets, and John Nash, who had been in the Big Five, just left the Big Five when I covered it for the Bulletin. I called him and said, hey, you told me you were looking for a guy for camp. Would you take Kevin Ollie? Oh, great name. I'll take Kevin Ollie. So he takes Kevin to camp. And at the time, they had Elliot Perry, who I think came through Utah at some point. Anyway, Elliot Perry had a $2 million guaranteed contract, and they chose to cut Elliot Perry and take the non-guaranteed guy in Kevin Ollie. And that was always my guy. It was always trying to knock out the guaranteed guy. I always had the non-guaranteed guys. And that's how I started with Kevin. Now, Kevin didn't shoot very well in his little run with the Nets, so they cut him mid-season. And I went back to the Sixers, and the Sixers took him for the rest of the year. They had him the previous year. That team went to the finals. And Kevin, even if you remember, played some center in that series for a minute or two when Larry Brown chose to go small. And so it was the first year that I tried to get a guaranteed contract for Kevin. He had never had a guaranteed contract. I spent all summer long listening to Jerry Krause's stories about fishing. And I don't know a thing about fishing, but by the end of that summer, I was an expert fisherman. And Kevin got his first guaranteed deal because I was patient with it. We got a deal with the Bulls. They traded him with Ron Artest to the Pacers, and Kevin was lucky enough to be in that series against the Nets. It was a great series. And then that led to a deal in Milwaukee. He got traded that year to Seattle with his buddy Ray Allen. His best friend in the world is Ray Allen. And so he gets traded to Seattle, and it was that year that Kevin had a real high assist-turnover ratio with George Karl. And so we were able to go for a bigger deal. So the best part of the story is, so I go to Kevin. He's never made any money, he's had one or two guaranteed deals, very small money by NBA terms. I said, Kevin, I think we can get $3 million over 2 years, $1.5 million with Seattle. How do you feel about that? He said, take that. Please take that. I said, Kevin, do me a favor. Go to the Bahamas and don't call me until I call you. And he said, no, don't lose that. Please don't lose that. Because he's a very humble guy. And he was a journeyman guy, as you said. Said, Kevin, I'll take care of it. And sure enough, about a week later, we were now at much more money, $10 million over 4 years. And I said to Jim Paxson, who was then the general manager of the Cavaliers, please have Kevin come in and throw a guy named Marco Salski, who later died at a very young age, who coached Kevin in Connecticut. I said, let Kevin be LeBron James's mentor. And indeed, great idea. We got to 5 years and $15 million, which was the most money Kevin Ollie would ever make. I mean, it was like, and I called him, I said, I'm sorry, am I interrupting your trip in the Bahamas? But we're at 5 years and $15 million. He said, what? You're kidding me. He said, are you sure? And I said, I'm sure. Can we accept that? And he said, yes. And he was just so excited. He was just excited. He was excited about mentoring LeBron, and then later he would mentor Kevin Durant. And that was the summer that Sam Presti called. The only free agent he'd signed that summer was Kevin. He called me and said, you really want Kevin Ollie? He said, I want Kevin Ollie. I want him to come in and mentor these guys. And Durant talks about how the person who had the most influence on him was Kevin Ollie. And so here's a guy who's spent a little time mentoring LeBron, spent a little time mentoring, Kevin Durant. And that's, you try to put these guys, if they'll trust you, in situations. Kevin was not a very good basketball player relative to what he really was a leader and a mentor, and you try to put a fellow like that in a situation to do what he does best, which is to coach, to be someone the players can relate to, but he's not a coach. And that's what you just have to position your player correctly. And, I think I did that with Kevin, and Kevin did his part, and he learned a lot, and the rest is history, because that fellow, the phone's ringing off the phone now. Someone sent a book the other day. Oh, my God. It's
Good
fun
for you.
stuff.
Well, congratulations. That is some great insight within the process. And now that doesn't cover all the years and all the grind and all the phone calls and all the follow-up emails and probably the tears and stress and anxiety with where all that goes. But it truly is a process, and to hear the mileage that went in behind it and your effort, to allow him to trust you and you guide that, to see where he's at today, like you say, with some book deals and, just you gotta really appreciate and admire and respect the success that he had with his team this year, because if you look at the coaches, that even got into the Sweet 16, and you look at Kevin, who just quietly went about his business and did a great job of, like you said, being a mentor to those players, guiding them, directing them, coaching them up, and making them believe. Look at the job that he's done, and I've enjoyed here in the last couple weeks, even the last week, hearing some of the interviews that Kevin has given, and how extremely humbling how humbled he is and appreciative, and he's such a spiritual guy, and I've really enjoyed enriching myself and refreshed with hearing Kevin's words and some of the interviews that he's had recently.
He's thankful because Jim Calhoun positioned it such that the AD who would have brought in his own guy would never have chosen Kevin. And the timing, Jim figured it all out. Said, if I do it on this day, they have to choose my guy, and my guy's Kevin.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, because when the guy came to me, he didn't really want to sign him, but he had to sign him, so he gave us this measly contract. He was like, do I really want to do this? This is so little money. This is embarrassing. I said, Kevin, do yourself a favor. You're going to be great at this. You have such a way with people. Just get them to go to class, get them to play hard, and everything else will take care of itself.
That's right.
And he's so humble that boom. And if you're a coach and you watch the way they played, and he surprised me at how passionate he is on the sideline, because I hadn't necessarily seen that side of him. But if you just saw, and as an AAU coach, as you spoke of earlier, what impressed me was it was so simple what he did. Yeah. All he did was he cut off the head. He said to you, I'm putting defensive pressure on you. The shot clock's going to be very low. You're not going to it's not a straight line. You're going to have to start your offense way far out on the side. All of a sudden, these guards are pressuring you, so you're starting your offense 15 seconds left. You're not getting into a good play. That's how he beat you. It was simple. It was Kevin Ollie. It was the way he played. Yeah. And it was he put his imprimatur on that team. And it wasn't genius. They didn't run great plays, although they ran some very good stuff on out of bounds. But it was really as simple as defense, tenacity, great guards. I love the idea of having a couple of point guards. I've tried to do it with my teams. It's such genius. But it was all, and you can't do it in AAU because you don't have a shot clock.
Yeah.
But here in New York, where my son goes to high school, you can do it. But in other places where there's no shot clock, it's a little harder in AAU, for instance. But in college or the pros, and that's what Indiana does with George Hill. George Hill is Dennis Johnson 30 years later. That's what he is, which is what most guys, Stephen A. Smith doesn't understand, is that George Hill is a much better offensive player than, let's say, they use in that. But what his main job is to do is cut off angles, to cut the time. And that's the beauty of it's so simple.
Yeah.
And we as coaches don't realize it all starts with stopping the other team, making it harder for them. And we come up with all these offense and all these metrics. And Kevin doesn't read metrics. He made it so hard for teams to get into what they do.
Right. Right. Well, he took them out of their comfort zone. He slowed down the
Right.
tempo. You had Shabazz, who had a great game, and Boatwright, both of those guards. I mean, they took it upon themselves and they willed that team because they didn't have the length, they didn't have the athleticism, but they had the quickness. And when they came out with that emotional start in beginning, you could tell that was a good push from Kevin. And like you said, they took Kentucky out of, their spots and made them, catch the ball where they didn't want to catch it, start their offense higher and, out of where they usually want to get in and just penetrate and pitch. But it was masterful, and it's fun to watch the tactics of it. But like you said, he put his players in a position to be successful, as you did with your client. So there are some analogies and things in life that are the same thing that we can do as individuals to to help ourselves succeed. But man, what great stuff that is, because he did a great job, because you heard all the professionals and the experts and the pundits say, oh, this is, Calipari, this Fab Five's better than the, Michigan Fab Five that you spoke about earlier. And, this is, the year they're going to do it. And Coach Calipari kept trying to back off of it and take the pressure off his guys. But wow, what a fun Final Four it was. And what a great tournament. Look at the parity in basketball this year.
And I think, everyone criticizes Calipari. He's a very good coach.
He is.
But think of how many NBA guys are on that team.
Yeah.
And think of how many NBA guys are on the Connecticut team.
Yeah.
And there's no way they should be in the same set.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking John Calipari at all, because I think he's a good coach.
Sure.
I'm just saying what you are able to do as a coach, you talk about empowering coaches, is, everybody says with the right talent, it's not necessarily the right talent.
Right.
It's the right fit of the talent.
That's
that
right.
Kentucky team was the most talented, but they didn't have a guard that would get them into stuff.
Yeah.
And Kevin took Napier, and a lot of NBA guys don't. You'll ask Pete, who follows me. I think they're crazy. Kevin has told me the kid has such a high basketball IQ that he's going to be a good pro. And only now is he moving up the draft board. He is such a great leader. And Boatwright, the best thing Kevin did is he took Boatwright, a kid who really was struggling there, and he turned Boatwright into this great weapon. That is coaching. He took the positives of Boatwright instead of the negatives.
That's right.
The kid wanted to leave. He shot too much. He turned all that into a positive by somehow getting to those two kids to get them to play the right way.
Yeah.
They set the tone for the rest of the team. And as you know, Scott, as well as anyone, if you can get your best players to be your best workers and all those things, you're successful. And
that's right.
He did that. And I'm not knocking Coach Cal, but he has so many of those guys he has to deal with.
Yeah.
If I were a kid, I wouldn't go to Kentucky. I'd want a program that was tailored to make me better.
That's right.
And I'm not sure this kid's got better. I think he's got a lot of good kids, and he organizes it well. But just like I would pick an agent that really spends the time on making me good, I would pick a university. And I think like Jabari Parker's done that with Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
Where Mike Krzyzewski's really spent time on making Jabari Parker better. And I think that's so valuable.
Yeah. You know what? I agree, and I echo, and I'm not even debating what you're sharing right now, because your finger is on the pulse so much with what's going on, and it energizes me to hear you speak on those things, because you look at kids that make decisions on emotion, and maybe they go to the wrong program or the wrong fit for them, and they just don't develop, or they lose their confidence. And you know how young these kids are at 17, 18, 19 years old. Their confidence is so fragile, and their body language. I mean, you can see so many things, the intricate details and tangibles that you can take care of and manage as a coach. But like you said, when you've got so many of those pieces, how do you prioritize and bring those people along and get them developed to where they need to be so that they're ready for the next level? And that's a necessary thing that has to happen as a manager. And I think the thing that Kevin, from an outside looking in, it looked like Kevin did a great job of managing his kids, identifying their roles, and those kids understood and knew their roles. And when he put together that game plan, they executed that game plan, because there were several games that came down very close. And if you watched Shabazz, I'm sitting there watching him, I'm going, he looks like another Monte Ellis out there, the way he was knocking it down and taking over and wanted to take the big shots. It was fun because his competitive spirit really came out.
I think he's going to be very good at the next. I think he's going to be good at the next level.
Yeah.
It surprises me that more people don't see when they have Tyler Ennis ranked so high and Shabazz much, much lower.
Yeah.
I don't know. From what I saw, I understand the one kid is younger, but that kid manages a game, and he's a leader and a winner. But I look for different things. I've been lucky to find players or winning guys because I look for that. I'm not always successful in getting them to sign with me, but the guys I've had, without having to do some of the things that other agents do, I don't have to do any of that because I found the right character guys, and they tend to be winning guys, and that's the beauty of it. If you can make it work, as I said at the beginning, if you find the right guys, just like coaching, if you find the right guys, you're more likely to be successful.
Well, Bill, I want you to speak on that. So, I heard you talk about character, and, you're talking about those guys who are driven and ambitious. Of course, they all want to be successful, but do they really have the character to accept the coaching? Do they have the character to accept the corrective criticism? Or are they too fragile? What are the things, as you're watching these college games right now and you see these college players who have aspirations of going pro, what are the things that you're looking for as an agent so that you don't have the headaches of maybe what some of the other agents do, because they're just trying to, sign as many players and then try to send as many people out, but they're really not taking the time to get to know them and build that relationship and build that rapport and trust. And a big thing that I'm seeing right now, you're not seeing a lot of loyalty, and that saddens me, because I guess I'm kind of old school where I believe loyalty is an important factor. But Bill, what is it you're looking for out of these college players to help them get to the next level? What characteristics are you really honing in on?
Obviously, everyone looks for skill or something like that first.
Sure.
Okay. But that's, most people can identify skill. Yeah. We think we're better at identifying skill than others. So that's one. Two, if you get to know the guy and he looks you in the eye, and you talk to people, and the loyalty component is almost gone in sports. Oh. But if you can find that guy, like Kevin, every agent in the world's come after him. Every agent in the world came after George Hill. I'm not a very big agent. And those guys, they weren't worried about that. Troy Hudson once said to me right before his biggest deal, he once said to me, well, when I was in the CBA averaging 9 points a game, none of these people were calling me. And that's such a different character than most. Because I have some of the war stories, too. Yeah. I can tell you the story of when I flew out to Salt Lake City, and I was going to surprise Matt Barnes and come to his game. And the day that I landed in Salt Lake City, I told the story of how my son opened up a package. He was in my office and I was getting fired. I had put him with Golden State. It was his first year. He was back in the league, and I had made the good call of putting him with Don Nelson. Mm-hmm. And my thanks was a termination letter, because a bigger agent came along and said, I can get you paid much more than this agent can. Of course, that never happened to the guy. And my guys did get paid. But the reality is to find that. Kevin, that was never my kind of guy. Yeah. And that is just the way it is.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, whereas Troy and Kevin and Jason Hart and George Hill were more my kinds of guys, and more likely to be coaches and more likely to be successful. That's and all the more, Mike Brooks is with Oklahoma City in the general manager's office. Yeah. Jason Hart's assistant at USC. Jerry McNamara's at Syracuse. Yeah. Much more loyal kinds of guys, because they realized. I once said to Jerry McNamara, he couldn't. The NBA wasn't buying him. I had heard that he was unhappy with me. I said, Jerry, are you unhappy with me? He said, if you were the problem, you would be fired. You are not the problem.
Yeah.
But man, this is the guy I like. It's like straight on, boom. And those are the kinds of guys that are more successful. It's not someone else, it's me. If I'm doing wrong, whenever someone starts blaming someone else, it's like time to shine. It's time to run from that person. Those that take responsibility are the ones that you want to be involved with. And that it's really hard. And to take this a step further for you, not so much as agents, but everything now is about metrics and analytics.
Yeah.
And NBA should do that, of course, because you learn more about the game. But it's stuff you and I understand. Never take 22-footers when you can take a 23-footer that's a 3. Never take a 22-footer. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Okay, to you and me. But the one thing they haven't figured out, and they're trying, and that's great, is the coachability factor.
Oh.
What guys become the Derek Fishers as opposed to the guys that become, bots, the Javaris Crittendens? What defines that? And the one who would test in football. These things don't define. What defines a good teammate? As someone who's willing to, I was watching Indiana yesterday. George Hill's struggling a little bit. The team's slumping. I'm watching them, and they got C.J. Watson off.
Yeah.
Certain guys made the extra pass to him. If you make the extra pass, the guy gets off, he does well. It's great.
Yeah.
But it's such a simple thing. Who's going to make the extra pass?
Yeah.
Who cares more about that? That's a really hard thing to determine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes Shabazz Napier special, whereas some other guys maybe not as special. And that's really that ability to define the chemistry, and the chemistry quotient is what the NBA guys have to figure out.
Yeah.
If they're going, this is what the Spurs have figured out, and this is what Oklahoma City's figured out, and Miami has figured out. A little different way than the other two, but if you can figure that out, that separates you as an executive or a coach or an agent from the rest.
And I agree. And I'm going to share something with the viewers. You and I shared a brief conversation on Saturday, and we were just kind of talking, and I asked you a question, and your response back to me has echoed and resonated within me, because when I asked you the question, Bill, and I don't even know if you realize you did it because it was just so natural for you, you came up with a plan and a strategy without even hesitating with the question that I had asked you, and that thrilled me. So I think it's great to, when you're sitting there, you're talking and you're getting to know people, you can get a good feel of a person's aura and a person's character. And, you and I, we've been in this business, for a while, and, we've been to the puppet show, we've seen the strings, you've heard the song and dance, and we've both been around that. But it was refreshing for me to speak with you on Saturday, while you're at your daughter's game, by the way. And, when I asked you that question and you said, okay, here's the plan and here's the strategy and, here's how we do it. I was like, man, this guy is on it. And it fired me up. So I just wanted to share with the viewers that, just in the limited time that we had a chance to chat and talk, I just thought, wow, I think it's great. And not only am I happy for Kevin for his success, but I'm also happy for you because you're the guy behind the scenes who, makes the phone calls and the countless number of phone calls and lining people up, to try to pave the way for them to make it easier for them. And it is sad when people, lose that loyalty factor like what you and I just shared because they think the grass is greener on the other side. And it's too bad because, if like what you and I talked about, if they had their own self-accountability where they weren't pointing the fingers and saying it's always somebody else's fault or why they didn't get the break or how they get this little chip on their shoulder and the next thing you know they're emotional, then there's just bad energy. It's a shame because it's nice to know that there's guys out there like yourself who do a great job building those relationships and and helping their clients. And I'm excited for both you and Kevin for the success you've had. But I mean, also look at, you've got some guys who are having nice careers overseas who, again, you've helped out that they may not be having the success if you weren't, lining them up with the right agents and the right teams and the right situations overseas to help them, provide for their families. You want to share some of those names with our viewers?
Well, and you had the opportunity to coach Julius Nwasu,
loved him.
I got the best compliment I ever got from a player when he said, "You're the only person who's been completely honest with me in 20 years." I mean, that's Rod Benson, who's one of my favorites because he's so funny.
Yeah.
And people, he was kind of kept out of the NBA because people were scared of his blog. He's a really, really good player. He's won some championships in a row in Korea now.
Oh, he's good. He's good, Coach. All right, Bill. He's good.
Yeah, Rod's good. I now help Quincy Doobie, who's one of the best players in China.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Quincy to be to stay in one place long enough that because I think he could play in the NBA. So a variety of guys, but I always want players that are really kind of story kind of guys.
Yeah.
I want players off the beaten track. I don't want the first round. There's nothing against any agent who takes them, but you're really it's their success, and you're trying to make money off their success.
Yeah, kind of exploiting them. Let's be honest. Kind of exploiting them.
I want it to be more of a collaborative effort where I have a piece in it, in that by things I may do, this person may have success. And that to me is the fun part. It's nothing against representing Joel Embiid or, because you benefit financially.
Yeah.
But I that doesn't interest me really. Yeah. What really interests me more is to, as you said, come up with a plan, try to get them to the NBA. If it doesn't work, learn about teams. Kevin asked me for his guy Defy about 5 agents. I didn't try to get Defy. And I'm not certain I'm going to work with Connecticut because I work with Kevin.
Yeah.
And I found out everything I could to have him make a good decision on Defy and the agent. And the reason I did it was because I want this young man who Kevin cares about deeply to have people like me who would put Defy in the best situation with the best coach who cares about him in a place he'll get paid. And it leads to the next job. You go here, you'll go there next year. And everything has a plan 2 or 3 years out.
Yeah.
When most agents don't think like that. I think 2 or 3 years out for a guy. I'm putting you here. So I put Julius, our buddy Julius, way back when in Spain, because the next year it led back to the NBA, but it actually eventually led to CSKA Moscow, one of the biggest teams in the world.
Right.
And where they gave us money and a little bag, and I had to carry around $30,000 in France, and I was worried I was going to get shot. But those are some of the great stories you deal with, and as an overseas agent, the things you do, you're worried because they haven't paid the poor guy in 8 months, and they owe him money, and you're not going to play in the game until they pay him the money, so they throw $10,000, $100 bills, on the table and say, take that. So, but it's protecting your player, being there for your player, and guiding them to the right jobs so that they end up doing as well as they can.
Well, you know what? I have nothing but the utmost respect for Juice. We actually won a championship together out in Lebanon. And he's just a quality person, good character. He's also very selfless. He would give a lot of his game up so that he could sit there, because I think he too will be a great college coach because he can teach and he has great networking and his connections globally. I mean, if I was a college coach, I would not hesitate at all to bring Julius in, to be working with my big man to help develop them, and the connections that he's had just because he was the captain of the national team in Nigeria. But what a great guy, and he was actually one of our guests on one of our first shows, and he was a lot of fun to talk to because he talked about his experience there with the Spurs, playing with, Avery Johnson was there, Sean Elliott was there, Dennis Rodman, Vinny Del Negro. So, I mean, you saw all these future NBA head coaches. Doc Rivers was on that Spurs team. And, we asked him about, some of the things that he learned from them. And, the things that he learned from Popovich, and gosh, a lot of insight and experience that young man has. But just a good heart and a good person. And I don't care what anybody says. When you can surround yourself with those kind of people, Bill, it just makes what you do that much more fun and enjoyable.
I just really do.
There you go.
I'm dealing with guys who end up in jail or something like that.
Right.
You want high character guys, and I've spent very little time dealing with problems of these guys. They've been friends of mine. We've worked collaboratively. They've done their part. I hope I've done mine, and that's really the fun part. I had a murder on a lawn of Troy Hudson, 12 years ago or whatever. But see, he was a good guy, and I know the story because his lawyer at the time said, "Don't talk to the police." I said, "Troy, did you do anything wrong?" "No." I said, "Did you ever in your house any time?" "No." "Did you come in your house anything like that?" "No." I said, "Why not talk to the police?" "I know James told me not to talk to the police." And I said, "But why are we not talking to the police? They're not bad guys. Let's talk to the police."
Yeah.
So he talks to the police, and police say, "Okay, you're good." And he gets a 3-year deal out of that because nobody was calling. He had a great year in Orlando. A lot of people were going to call, and then when they heard there was a murder in his front lawn, they didn't want to deal with him. And once he talked to the police, he was cleared of everything. He was in the music business. He was with some people he wasn't paying attention to, and boom. Yeah. Some people were recording in the studio. He wasn't even there. And that's my point. By managing their careers, by listening to them, by associating with good people. Now, he knew that he learned from that to associate with a little bit better people himself, but he was a good guy himself. And you just have to be around good folks who do the right things. And these guys are great guys. They're good, and they'll do the right things. And people like Kevin and Mike Wilkes are better characters than I'll ever be. So I stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Give them good advice and stay out of the way.
There you go. Well, Bill, let me ask you this. We've got a poll question on tonight's show, and we're having a lot of viewers that are sending in some responses on Facebook and on Twitter, and some on LinkedIn, and some through Instagram. Through all the social media and stuff. Our poll question tonight is who do you think will be in the NBA Finals? Who's your top team in the East and the top team in the West that are playing well right now? Who you think will be in the NBA Finals here in June?
Subjectively, Indiana and San Antonio, because I have George Hill. Objectively, I'd watch out for Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say Miami and San Antonio do it again.
Yeah.
I was disappointed yesterday when I watched Oklahoma City and its bench.
Yeah.
I think the bench play could bring them down. Westbrook to me is still a little bit inconsistent because of all the injuries.
Yeah.
San Antonio, its system is wonderful, and they're wonderful. I think so much of what they do. When I send a letter, you talked about letters to 30 NBA teams, so few of them even respond. Sometimes San Antonio responds to everything you ever write.
Isn't that something?
They're one of the few franchises. It's not the only one that respond to. Some people won't return calls.
Yeah.
When they want you, they'll call you 900 times. But they respond every single time.
Yeah.
They don't even have that many executives. They have a guy that literally emails you or calls you back. I mean, people understand. I have players to report to. They'll say, "Well, have you heard from San Antonio?" It's like, no. And then you look powerless because they're not calling you back.
Yeah.
And for them to respond, they allow me to do my job, make me look good. Well, San Antonio's not interested. At least they responded.
Yeah.
That's
class.
Well, I haven't got answers
classy.
on that.
That's classy.
And then I would say, Indiana, if they can figure it out, can beat Miami. I'm not sure they have, so that's why I choose Miami. But I really think Brooklyn did a great job in the off season, and they're close had they been healthy.
Yeah.
I really think Kirilenko and Garnett healthy would have been great in the playoffs.
Well, Kirilenko's so versatile. Of course, fans out here in Utah got to see that for years, and they've got some personnel out there, and I think Jason Kidd was patient. I mean, he took a lot of shots in the beginning when they weren't having success, but again, a lot of people aren't looking at Darren Williams was injured. Garnett wasn't 100%. You know, some of these guys that have got some mileage on their legs, you know, they're starting to slowly peak, and like you say, they can be very dangerous. And I'm like you. I think if you watch Indiana closely, I think, you know, they've done a good job personnel-wise, and, you know, if they get clicking, I think they're going to give Miami a lot of trouble, because it was a close series last year. You know, just have that inside out, and as you said, the teams that have the proper spacing and make the extra pass and simplify the game inside out, you know what? It's going to be tough to take care of them in a 7-game series.
They did something yesterday which was very promising, but I don't want to. One game is not a launch, but they watch Evan Turner and to watch Lance Stevenson, for the most part, make the extra pass.
Yeah.
Hibbert's still too worried about his offense, but if he'll go back to his roots and realize he's what he is, his defense, his offense is dessert.
Yeah.
And if they share the ball, and Paul George starts to come back to what he was doing before, with the moves they've made, they have a chance. Miami, I think they're helping better. I think they will use first.
Yeah.
And the Brooklyn because Williams is the key. I mean, Williams is the key. You never know the level you're getting. If you get the level that he's capable of, they can beat anybody.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Bill, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show tonight. And I know you're out in the East Coast. You're a few hours in front of us. It's getting late in the evening time, but you know, thank you so much for your time, and you know, for you allowing the listeners and viewers of the show to you know, listen to a lot of nuggets that you shared. And if they've seen the show week after week, there's starting to be a theme and there's starting to be a pattern, you know, with the process. And you know, there's a lot of quality people in the sports entertainment industry. And it's just nice to know that, you know, there's great people out there who are selfless and who do care and, you know, do give a lot to the sport. And, you know, you with your agency, you know, you've continued to do a nice job with your guys. And I like the fact that, you know, you kind of keep it small and you keep it personable. And I can't sing your praises enough. And it's just great to have you on the show, buddy.
And thanks for having me, and I wish you're able what you do. I know you're young and still, but you're pretty good at this too.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope this is something that I can fall back on several years after the coaching career, because I've still got that itch pretty bad, my man. So hopefully we'll be blessed, and the good Lord will put us on a path, and we'll be on that sideline working with some players soon.
I'm sure you will, and but thanks for having me, and all the best.
Well, Bill, we really appreciate you, buddy.
Okay, Scott, be good.
Oh, you know it. You know it. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, man, that was great. That was, you know, for me, just listening in on that, learned an awful lot about things you don't even think about as just a lay person, not, you know, really involved in any of that. It's pretty interesting to see his point of view and his tact and the way he likes to the type of people he likes to represent.
Right. You know what? I can't help it. I'm just the kind of person, Bob, and you know, you and I, we've known each other for a while, but I kind of gravitate towards that type of character and towards that type of individual, and I try to surround myself with those types of people, because it truly does make, you know, it just so much more fun and enjoyable to surround yourself with good quality people, and it just makes what you do that much more rewarding, because there are a lot of hardships and hard times and things that are out of your control. But he does a great job with his people. And, I mean, look at Kevin right now. I mean, you heard him. They just signed a book deal, and I'm sure there's all kinds of endorsement things coming his way. But, again, he's worked hard. He's earned that. So congratulations to Kevin and Bill, and I know they're going to continue to have great things, you know, moving forward with their careers. And it's exciting to have him on there. You heard him talk about Julius, who was a guest on our show before. So there's a lot of, you know, threads that kind of intertwine here as we're on the Coach Scott Field show. But hey, let's take a break, and we're going to get Pete Babcock on the phone with us here shortly, and he's also going to share some great stories about all of his years in the NBA, and I'm really excited to have him on. All right.